What's up? My name's Glue welcome back to the channel, and another fun topic here. A faction that I've kind of neglected, but have decided to talk about since I am building a knight currently. Not an Imperial knight, but, you know. So, because I need to do some lore research for my, my local crusade that I'm working on, it's Knight Week. We're talking about knights. Next week we got Chaos Knights. But first up. Now, this is something that I've grown to appreciate a little bit more, because I've stated in my faction tier list video, and I think a couple more times, I'm not a mech guy. I think most mechs are kind of boring, if I'm going to be completely honest. There are a few exceptions, like Pacific Rim, because if someone hates Pacific Rim, they're fucking wrong. Lancer, the best tabletop game ever. Fantastic, love my cowboy mech. And to a smaller extent, you know, 40k Knights. They hit the kind of mech design I like. Not like Tau or Eldar mechs, I think they're lame as fuck. Or the Dread Knights, which is still the dumbest design I've ever seen. But this begs the question, what exactly is a knight? Now, in your head, picture this. Picture a medieval knight. Now, take away their plate mail and their horse, and put them in a fucking mech suit, 20 feet tall, giant guns that vaporize vehicles, giant chain swords that can just lop through buildings. That's 40k knight. And they're super fucking cool. And I do mean medieval knight in every sense of the word. Not just like, you know, they're called knights in armor. They have noble houses. They got politics, Game of Thrones level politicking, with all the things that brings in. All that honor and chivalry and knightly code, all that's there, but in a mech suit, and it's rad as fuck. But this didn't always start that way. In fact, back in the days of like the good old days, the golden age of humanity, before the Emperor, before everything went really bad for humanity, the knights were actually just like a form of protection and manual labor for really far off colonies. See, they would shoot off a colony ship on a one-way trip to some random far off habitable world, they'd land, cannibalize the ship for parts, and they'd have their big knight. Now, this knight primarily, of course, served to defend the colony. You know, any big aliens that pop up, they need someone to defend it. Say your planet has a kaiju on it, what better than a mech to fight it? But as well, because the golden age of humanity was like this, it was primarily used for manual labor, because that was kind of a dual purpose thing back then. I mean, take a look at the Bane Blade. The Bane Blade is a tank now used by the Imperial Guard, one of the strongest tanks we have. It is a size of a large house with a big fuck-off cannon, and back in the day, this was a light scout tank. So, like, everything was a little differently scaled. So, like, the big chain swords the knights have, that was for lumber. It would sweep through, like, forests. The giant cannons they have, mining. But eventually, because of course they do, they always do, such as their fate in the universe, the Eldar fucked up royally and ruined everything for everybody because they created Slaanesh. And thus the Dark Age of humanity hit. Warp storms embroiled everything and they couldn't really travel, and everyone was very shut off from each other. So the knights now became extra fucking important because now you've got a big ass mech defending you when you can't really call for help in any other regard. And so the importance of these knights became a little bit more prominent. And eventually people started gathering around the knights, the knight pilots started to feel a lot more important, and eventually you work your way to the point where knights are now a form of nobility and aristocracy in the planet. This also made a lot worse because of a little thing in the mech itself, this being the Throne Mechanicum. The Throne Mechanicum is a thing that you actually put yourself into to pilot the mech. Now, it kind of works on Pacific Rim rules. You actually like jack your brain into the mech, though with some differences and proper grimdarkifying the process. Now, a knight, when they become a knight pilot, their family, they get their coming of age ritual, finally. They get their chance, all their training's been for really something. They go through the ritual of becoming, where they go through the ceremony, they go to the Throne Mechanicum, link the cables into their brains and like neural network, get the augmentations, and then go through one of the worst days of their lives. As the Throne Mechanicum does a few little extra things. It has to upload a lot of data and download some more from the user. And the thing it does is it uploads and downloads personality. And every single one of your family house, everyone that is jacked into your mech, has a part of them inside of it, which all then come rushing right into your brain, leaving you in a massive state of giant mood swings, fugue states, visions, this weird lucid dreaming deal, where you'll go from laughing uproariously when like a nice memory to sobbing your eyes out on the floor. And this lasts for an entire day with such an impact that like you might just die from the neural overload. But let's say you survive this, because you probably do. From what I've seen, the night death rate for the ritual becoming is like 1 in 10. So you have a pretty solid shot to survive this, luckily, like 9 out of 10 chances. For 40k stats, that's fucking massive. But one thing that happens is part of your memories and personalities are uploaded into your night, and depending on your general emotional state, this will be altered. As say for example, you're a pretty prideful, powerful person, this is gonna encapsulate when you pilot your mech. You're gonna be a lot more capable in piloting it, as once you jack into the Throne Mechanicum, it's like a second pair of skin. It's very natural for you. But say you're a generally scared and nervous person. This means that it's gonna be a lot harder for you to pilot it because there's like a little degree of separation. Like the mech itself is worried. This also amplifies some more feelings, like honor and chivalry and duty, because all of that was in through your ancestors. So just naturally you have these feelings of I'm duty and honor bound to protect those under me. Or if you're a little bit of a shoot of your night house, I am duty bound to subjugate the people below me. I am their ruler. And this also leads into the night houses in general, as eventually they start having these opinions and these feelings brought in by the Throne Mechanicus, and they start to take over the planets, which then everyone of course is like, yeah dog, I'll do what you say. You could just destroy my house at a glance. You could wreck my town by taking a stroll through it. Of course we're gonna pay fealty. So then each of these planets devolved into medieval feudalism. And they had a bunch of serfs and they pay their tributes to the mech. But eventually the Imperium rediscovered them. And depending on who they met first determines on who they actually aligned with. As there's like 3 distinctions of knights depending on who they actually align with. There's the Imperium aligned knights, the Mechanicus aligned knights, and then just like Freeblades, who do their own thing. They're lone wolves, mercenaries, the coolest of the coolest ones, honestly. And particularly the Imperium ones just swore fealty to the Emperor. The Mechanicus ones saw the Mechanicus being the Mechanicus, and they knew how to actually fix their mechs. And then the Mechanicus saw these cool mech suits and was like, best friends. But one of the things that did stay consistent throughout all of this is the fucking ego of these knights. They have a very large, larger than life stature to themselves. And they conduct themselves in a really fun, goofy way, because they're like very regal and royal to a goofy extreme. I mean, there's a night house that forces the people on their planet to go through 9-hour-long rituals naming the names of previous knights that came before and all their glories, and it lasts 9 hours, and they do this daily. In fact, one of the reasons that those night pilots go out to adventure the stars and fight the good fight is because they want to get out of these really boring rituals. And there's another thing I'll encapsulate, because I think this is one of the funniest things ever. The concept of a drop keep. Now say you're in a big fuck off mech. How do you get to battle? You could do the boring way, sure. You have like, you know, the typical cables being flown in by ships, you're dropped in there and you run to battle. Yawn, boring, who wants that? Instead, you could have a drop keep. A drop keep is a castle that's launched from low orbit. It's a drop pod castle, hits the ground. Right once it collides, banners unfurl, trumpets blare, vox speakers crackle on, proclaiming, you are now facing such and such knight, the slayer of whatever, the subjugator of whoever the fuck. They deliver all your titles as the gates open, the knight walks out triumphantly. And essentially, it's a WWE intro for a night pilot. It's the fucking funniest thing I've ever seen. And in fact, this is kind of just their modus operandi, because if they see another like knight, like a Chaos Knight, for example, one they're sworn by duty to kill, they will directly vox link this same exact intro to the night pilot, declaring a duel. But also, I think I could be showing you, at least not the dropkeep part, because there's no actual video footage of it, but the game Orcs, Blood, Shooters, and Teeth, hope that's in the right order, actually has a knight boss, and he kind of does a form of this. So I'm just going to show you that cutscene.
Soggy neck, that's a big Tim Boyd.
Attention, Orc! You face Lord Horik Canorum, son of High King Valeric Canorum, High Prince of House Canorum, Master of the Blade of Gaia, Keeper of the Gates of Loralo, Wielder of the Caloric Flame, Bringer of Hope, Herald of the Holy Order of the Adamantine Lance, the Paladin of Koto, Slayer of the Lion of Essa, the Triumphant, the Light of Stars, the Eradicator.
You what?
And honestly, that's the gist of Knights. There's not a lot more to go into other than the individual houses and the actual like free blades. They're fun, look into them on your own. Not fully what I'm gonna get into here, that's not what this is. So instead, we're just gonna go right to the rules. So, Knights. They're actually in a very, very good state with this latest season. They got a lot of very needed rules updates. Oh boy, being friends with like Knight players was really sad for a good chunk of time, because I just kind of saw their faction just go down and down and down. Now finally it's up and I'm very happy for them. And happy for me because I'm profiting off of this slightly too. Because the new rules make it very easy to slot a knight in to whatever army you're running, if they're aligned with it. Something I'm currently doing. But you pick Imperial Knights, what do you actually get? One of the big things you get is the code Chivalric, which is a really fun rule that essentially you make an oath and you have to stick to those tenets of the oath. You break it, you take some penalties, you lower on the tracker, but if you actually get to the higher ends, you get some really big benefits. Some very good ones. You want to stay in that oath Chivalric as much as you can. And then other than that, your sub-factions, which all of them work like normal sub-factions, but primarily there's one big through line, and it's, do you go with an Imperium aligned house or a Mechanicus aligned house? Which gives you the Sacrosanct Pledge or the Vow of Honor. Sacrosanct Pledge if you're Mechanicus, Vow of Honor Imperium. Which, other than that, I'm not going to go through every single house, I already said that, but specifically there's one pretty cool one, that being House Tyrannus, which is pretty dope. Which, like, pretty solid, gives you a 6-up Feel No Pain and the Sacrosanct Pledge, which is a pretty good one. And also, you have an ability to change a die roll once per game into a 6. Now, that sounds pretty lame, but if you are currently virtuous through your Oath Chivalric, it is once per turn, which is a goofy ability in case you have any possible weapons that are affected by a 6 to hit. So look into that. Other than that, for list building, pretty simple. Honestly, you're also playing one of the cheapest armies to get into because, yeah, sure, the models are expensive, but you only need like, I think 6 or 7 of them. Specifically, look into getting yourself a Gallant Paladin and Crusader, and then just fill up the rest with armigers. That's how you build a knight list. Good job. And then just pick the weapons you think would be most fun and work best with your sub-factions. Or you could go a little crazy and give yourself 2 knights and the rest of armigers. Primarily, you're going to be running 2 or 3 knights. That's kind of it. But yeah, that wraps it up. Knights are a really cool faction, and honestly, they're really dope to play. So go wild. But anyways, if you like this, like, comment, subscribe, do that stuff. Join my membership, pay me money, and see you.